Okay, so we are doing this because it's a year. So is it the 15th or the 22nd?
The 22nd is when we released the album.
Yeah.
It's not.
No, 22nd was when we did the
Oh,
show,
yeah.
Yeah.
wasn't it?
See, this is what I got wrong. So it's
We're
the
fucking still getting it wrong, aren't we?
it's the 15th.
Dopes.
So that's so this is marking the year of the release of the album. So we figured, why not do something like this? Yeah.
Sit
Why
down
not?
and talk absolute wallop about it.
Yeah. So before we go on like a massive tangent, I guess it would be a good idea to kind of mention everyone who we've made this thing possible. So
Dave.
Prendergast.
Big Dave Prendergast.
How did
for,
that even come about? Because I wasn't really involved in lining that up.
It was Sam, wasn't it? It was I knew about him through Overhead the Albatross,
Yeah.
and they were a fairly kind of similar band sonically to us. And you had kind of prior
Yeah,
connections
I'd
with
worked with Dave before as a little cheese string when I was like 15, in a previous band, and yeah, I think it just was the logical kind of choice, for someone to do the album, and it was a case of let's just ask him, and it was something that appealed to him, and we could just about make it work on the budget that we had. So I think that was
Yeah, looking back now, I don't think that the album would have, first of all, happened or come out the way it did if it wasn't for him being involved. We didn't know before we started the recording sessions that he would be as instrumental as he would been in terms of like making it sound like something that we weren't actually capable of.
Yeah, he definitely added like a huge other level to it.
He was a huge part of it, and I think when we went into it, we wanted someone like we had written these songs isolated in a room for like months on end, and we were really open to the idea of someone coming in and kind of ingesting it themselves and then seeing what comes out. We knew that he had kind of the prior knowledge to kind of take these sounds and ideas that we had and put like a complete new sheen on them, which he completely did.
Yeah, like I'm sure we'll get into as we listen through the things, but like there was a lot of moments during the album where he'd kind of take something that we had, like maybe it's an additional synth part, and it just using all his kind of instruments and his outboard gear just turned into something new, or even like a section given it a spin that we had never really intended and stuff. So that's good to mention. Dave as well, and then Aidan as well.
Aidan Cunningham.
Yeah, so he mastered the album as well. Although we had never met Aidan before. At that point, we'd never met him before.
yeah. Dave kind of lined that up, didn't he?
I had heard about him because of like a lot of the metal bands and stuff that he had been involved with and stuff like that. So I'd heard his name throughout the years and knew that he was a fairly kind of respected source in that sense. But again, his input to the album just brought it to the next level kind of thing.
Next would be Abby Denniston. I can never pronounce that name properly.
For taking loads of lovely photos.
We're standing on the beach with us
boys.
when it was really
The-
cold.
Giving
yeah,
us all
the most
pneumonia.
the most uncomfortable day of my
Stupid
life.
idea. Jesus.
Was it?
I
in
had a
Dec-
great time.
We
lads.
went into the
It's like the
IRC
fucking
in
week before
December.
Christmas or
The
something.
Yeah.
18th of December, yeah.
In December,
What a bunch of turkeys.
decided to drown ourselves.
Yeah, but like that's where the whole image of the whole album came from.
Just
you know?
general bleakness. Yeah.
Discomfort, just
Discomfort.
general.
Yeah.
Bleak, wet, weird, cold.
And that's how it sounds.
Yeah. But it made, as soon as we saw the photos and stuff, like obviously it was for just kind of promotional things as well. But when we saw the photos, we were generally like, this could be used as the album cover as well.
Yeah,
And
But
it
that,
worked out really well.
that's what my idea for the actual was.
You're pointing
to get
off camera, Kev.
Yeah.
He's pointing at the artwork. 'cause it's
So-
on TV
You
right
can
now.
pop it up.
I don't know how
Oh,
to-
Yeah, I'll do
Technology,
it like an interstitial.
Yeah.
Like
Just
there.
where my finger is.
Yeah,
Right here.
Or here, yeah.
I'll do that.
Or where my fingers are.
Actually, I might intersplice just video as we go
Yeah.
because we have a couple of videos and then I have
There we
footage
go.
of certain things. So I'll see if I actually follow through with that idea.
I think surely at this stage we've exhausted all of the footage of us just being complete fucking mongos.
No,
be
there's
surprised.
there's like days worth of that. Yeah,
there's a
there's
lot
only
more.
there's only like 3 or 4 videos that are 20 minutes long.
Jesus.
It is ridiculous.
More
yeah.
on the imagery of how the album looks is just two other people who helped kind of finish the thing up would be Eric, my
Your
brother.
brother?
Yeah,
he
brother.
just helped us get all of the
the layout and stuff
Yeah.
of the
the layout of the imagery, and then
He did
Jack,
the poster for the launch as well.
yeah, he did that
Yeah.
as well, and the news gig.
Yeah, and thanks.
Yeah, that
And
too.
then Jack, you knew Iron Parasite.
Yeah, so I knew it's a guy called Stephen Lindsay. I knew him through gigging in Waterford a few times, and kind of met him through there. But kind of obviously added him on Facebook and noticed that he was doing a lot of art stuff. And for the logo that we were looking at, which Dave will obviously pop up on the video now as well, hopefully. We all had an idea of what we kind of wanted, and threw him a few ideas, and he really kind of nailed it. It's a really cool logo, I think.
It's weird. I just thought it'd be good to mention all of them because before we had any of their contributions, we were kind of in band limbo because we were usually we probably talk about like the old times and new times because there are some points in the album when you get those kind of
The crossover.
vestigial
almost, yeah.
old songs, old sections, you know.
That's a great word, Dave.
Cheers. Yeah.
Great.
Wait
Has
on
that
one.
written
Yeah, he
down.
wrote
It's
that
written
down.
down.
That, yeah.
But like before we had like maybe what you could call our new kind of look or our new sound,
A new aesthetic.
like we
Yes.
like we didn't have any of that before the album. You
No.
know, we were in a bit of a intermediate set, whatever you could call a phase.
Yeah.
So when we were even going to do all this album, we really had to. It was a bit of a complete rebirth. So we needed to get how do we look? We don't even have a logo. We don't technically have a sound. You know, we don't have any output so far. So it wasn't just releasing an album. It was a bit of a rebrand, a bit of a
Yeah,
Change
a,
it.
like a
reboot.
complete rebrand, like we
Yeah.
what we were late
Change
night
the
troubles
name,
beforehand.
like,
Yeah,
yeah.
just to
And we
shorten that
changed
to
the
make
name,
it to
yeah.
make it look less terrible.
Less of a mouthful. Yeah.
Yeah.
yeah. So it was a very big moment, I think, actually doing the album because it was against all people's kind of
Advice,
Advice
yeah,
and-
but still,
yeah.
but it was also a massive kind of re effort. You
Yeah,
know,
but part of it, I think, the idea of doing an album, like, I think the album came about because we had sort of, like, we'd shifted. There'd been a bit of a shift in terms of the style of music that we were writing, and I think we all sort of decided that putting together a full length album was what would be like.
The best way.
I don't know,
for us
be
to
the best
deliver.
representation of what we were trying to do, rather than just being like, right, let's just put out a fucking 3-song EP or 4-song EP.
Yeah.
Like, let's sit on this for a while and really try and put something that's really coherent together. Which then, like, once you opened up that door, that's what got us thinking more about, like, all right, well, let's make sure that aesthetically everything else ties in with this. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So I think it all came from, like, I don't know whether there was a particular sort of switch. It was like once we
I think it kind of happened over time, and the more we wrote
Yeah.
the album, like the more we kind of got in the room, the more it all kind of came together.
Yeah.
It was just kind of like a continual thing. I think it was only after we took the photos is when we pretty much had everything done, wasn't it?
yeah.
yeah, I think so. Yeah, I guess that's just like a good background, isn't it?
Yeah.
I'm gonna hit pause, and then we'll come back, and then we'll start to sing. All right, so we're gonna listen through it now, and see what springs to mind.
Yeah.
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 Gonna
Gotta
do.
chat some shite.
Yeah. The Black Spot. Reminds me of maybe that was one reason why I like
Pirates
the
of the
title.
Caribbean.
Yeah. I just thought it was a good way to start. I don't know, track listing. You know, it's an omen. It's an omen of death, isn't it? It's a bad omen and
Yeah.
somewhat.
Got to do with the sea also.
Yeah.
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 Imagery and all that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Water themes.
Yeah.
Yeah, but yeah, it was originally 5.5 minutes long.
Something like that. Yeah.
Yeah. I don't know. It wasn't working. Like we had this amount of it done, the 3-minute finalized version of it. The next 2.5 minutes after that was it's kind of like breaking the sections down into like minute parts and bringing it back up again.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Kind of
just
for the
wasn't-
sake of it. And
Yeah.
I thought it'd be cool to kind of start the album with a splash.
Oh god.
Oh, water imagery.
Whoa.
Yeah.
No, but with something really, really big. But we ended up finishing the album like that instead.
Yeah.
You know, but I think the way it is now, there'd be no other way to have this song.
I
the way
think
it
when
is.
you brought it in first as well, as soon as we heard it, everybody thought, yeah, this is the opening to the whole
Yeah.
thing.
Yeah. Absolutely.
Yeah.
It was very definite straight away that that's how it had to start.
What's funny is I didn't in my head I didn't actually agree. I thought we should
Start with
The last
with
track.
Neptune. Yeah,
Yeah.
in my head it should have been flipped.
Yeah.
We should have started with Neptune and ended with the Black Spot.
But then,
But now, obviously, I agree.
Yeah.
Like,
Yeah.
it's clear as day
Yeah.
now. You know,
No, it establishes again, like any
It's a
kind of
slower
opening
start.
track does. It establishes the general gist of the album. Like it goes from very quiet, kind of almost ambient piano bass to hell, really. And
Reefs.
yeah, exactly. It kind of covers like the whole spectrum of what the album does, and just establishes the mood. I think.
is this the only track that we tune down for?
Yeah.
Well, no,
Not for no.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Shit, but
Right. Yeah. It's not the easiest to play live.
No,
Um,
it is. It's really hard to get together. Yeah.
Yeah. But yeah, I don't
couldn't
know.
get that off beat section ever.
yeah, yeah. No, there was a lot of trial and error, like
Yeah.
figuring out how to replicate it with the 5 of us in a room.
Definitely.
This right here is that combination of instruments. It's going to be a recurring motif. Heavy bass riff, jack on a stack.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's going to happen in pretty much every
Fucking-
song.
There you go.
And-
That's just
and
it. That's
Dave
just
did-
write an LNT album by numbers.
Yeah. Yeah. It is
It's
my
like,
mission.
here's the
yeah.
fucking coloring book. Just let Jack just smash the shit out of a stack. Now I'll play a riff. Dave will just do some weird shit. Kev will shout, and I'll just soak everything in reverse delay to
Widdly-
make it
widdly
sound
little reverse
way
delay,
cooler than
yeah.
it actually is.
But with the stacks, did you ever have the stacks just recorded raw, or did you layer multiple stacks, or because it
In-
doesn't sound the same?
In one
Yeah.
song, I know that we even made the snare we added the stack under it, just to add a little bit
In
more
circles,
punch.
I think.
Yeah,
In
yeah. He
circles.
doubled. He doubled it.
You sampled it for ages. I think.
Exactly,
It's in
yeah.
other stuff as well.
Yeah.
It's in,
But the blend of snare, and it gives it like it's almost like a clap almost
Yeah,
sound. Like it
exactly,
gives this
yeah.
real crack. But we're into a new song now.
yeah. This is our pop song.
Arguably, like I think this has always been my favorite song on the album.
Really?
Yeah. Funnily enough, it just kind of for me, it's just like really well put together. Like
Yeah,
you know-
I kind of go through phases. Like I kind of come back and revisit the album like every like 2 weeks or something when I'm in my car.
Yeah, same.
I'll always just like put it on or whatever. This is always there as like, and then I kind of cycle through listening to the other tracks in a little bit more detail, and I kind of find that my favorite sort of changes.
Yeah. I've kind
It's
of gone
weird.
even just in the last few days listening to it repeatedly. I've kind
Yeah,
of
like From Water.
like flopped it. Yeah.
From Water comes in and out, and it was like, man, fuck me, that was so good. That's
It's just
epic.
stanky
That's
song. yeah.
crazy.
This is definitely one of the like most commercially viable of the songs that we've ever done.
because there's no riffs.
Yeah, well, the first 4 minutes of it anyway.
Yeah.
I always really liked the first lyric of the album is you stand and face the sea. It just kind of sums up the whole thing, doesn't it?
Yeah, there you go.
Imagery.
You know?
Yeah.
It's like you stand and face the sea, the sand on your knees. If you
Sand underneath.
the sand underneath.
Sand on your knees.
What are you doing?
Wow,
Sucking someone
Dave.
off on the beach?
So you're standing, but there's sand on your knees. So what were you doing beforehand?
All right, it didn't take long.
Right,
to
back
dissolve
in the
it,
room,
that's it.
boys.
You know what I mean? It's it kind of like sums up kind of like the overall global perspective of the album. You
Yeah,
know?
especially with the album cover and the first video release being in circles. With
And then
that
the
whole-
second video as well. You're standing and facing the sea there.
That's the third.
That's the
video.
third video. 'Cause
Third video.
The third video.
This was the second video.
This is
This
your
was just a
favorite
performance
band.
video where
Yeah.
we got a cool lighting rig and just played it in an empty venue, and
Yeah, we got Carl, the good boy Carl Healy, to do loads of sound and lights for us and made us look really cool.
Yeah.
And David Geddes.
Lame Geddes.
Liam
Liam.
Geddes. Jesus, why do I keep saying David? I feel so bad.
there's a lot of Dave.
A lot
No,
of
Dave's
going on.
involved in this. Yeah.
Sorry,
Liam Geddes recorded a video for us and looks really cool.
This is I was actually surprised now that it's been almost a year that this was one of the songs that people actually latched onto, that people enjoyed.
Yeah,
I
it's
thought-
also
I thought it'd be
it's
too
the
much.
second song on the album, so it's when people start listening to it, and then after that they just kind of
Yeah.
lose interest and stop
Yeah.
listening.
Yeah. I don't know.
But,
I thought it'd be too long. There'd be a bit too much.
Yeah, no, I think it worked.
It's broken up really well because
Yeah.
it goes like in terms of the song, the intro is like the same as the chorus, and then you have a verse, a pre-chorus, a chorus, a shorter verse, a shorter pre-chorus, and then
yeah,
two
like
choruses.
the progression is kind of.
So it's like it's
a-
not as choppy changey
But
as everything
it
else in
definitely
the
was. I think it was
album.
definitely the right choice to have it as the second single rather than the lead single.
Yeah.
I think In Circles was the right choice.
Yeah.
As like, right, this is indicative of what you can expect from this album.
Yeah. It was more well.
Yeah, I think it kind of captured the essence of what we were doing pretty well. It was pretty well rounded.
Yeah.
But having this as a second single, then like leading up to we only released this like the week before the album came out, wasn't it?
Yeah.
So
it was funny. This was a track that I didn't even at the start didn't even want to use as a single, and like obviously it could be, but it was almost something that I wanted people to find more so than to give to them, because again, like I always felt really connected.
You don't want
to
to
the song.
explain everything.
Yeah.
Like
This was-
overtly.
this
You kind of
was-
want people to just fucking.
Yeah, this was a song where I
Pick it up
wanted people to go,
themselves.
holy shit, like this song in like the middle of the album that has no attention to it is amazing. It's just this huge thing.
I feel like From Water is
But
that track.
intentionally hiding songs on the
Yeah,
album so people
exactly.
listen to them.
Should we all be really quiet for like the mad section now?
Just
So this is a part that always gives me chills when we're playing it live. A huge part of that is Noel's bass playing. I remember,
just heft.
like, and it's because
then
we
heft
have
again.
a video of it when Noel finally did a slide thing. You can actually hear Sam going oh in the middle of it.
But you used the tune down bass recording.
Yeah, on the recording I
is it a
used
five
a
string?
5-string for it, yeah. And
now
then
what do you do?
live we use an octave pedal underneath.
Yeah, I think it's one of those things where every time we play this live as well, it's like
it's
it
always
gets to
somehow
it, it's
bigger.
aggressive and stuff, and then it gets to a certain point, and every single time we play it, I feel like we come up another like we always realize that it's like we can get more
Yeah.
aggressive with it with each time we play it, and it's like every show it just gets fucking more intense. Like it's weird.
Yeah, there's always that line where it's like, last time I was like here on the gain.
Yeah,
of my
you're like,
distortion,
that
and then
was-
you're
yeah.
just like,
You just keep fucking up.
just
No man, like
crank
I
it
remember
up.
like I think the Whelan show just there that we did, like that's the most abuse I think I've ever given that guitar.
Yeah,
Like I was
definitely.
punching it around for that section.
Yeah.
This song is fairly important because it was everyone's kind of first introduction to like what we're doing now.
Yeah.
This was the first single we released, first video, all that kind of stuff.
That
It was
that
like
was November, wasn't it? Of
something like
27.
that.
Yeah.
Yeah, it was
2017.
November 7th.
Of 2017.
yeah, you're establishing, okay, we've moved on from what we used to do. This is what we're actually doing.
Yeah, it encompasses everything that the band is now. Really.
Just to give a nod to Dave, when we were talking about like him kind of adding weird layers and stuff in this verse
Dave
underneath
Prendergast.
it, Dave Prendergast, that is, sorry. He's obviously taken just the performance of me playing the guitar part straight through the verse and reversed and layered it like a reverse layer underneath it so that it sweeps in, and it's like that's something we probably
Just wouldn't
We
have thought
we
of
wouldn't
it.
we wouldn't have thought of because we wouldn't have known how to execute it.
Exactly. Yeah.
So like, and it just gives it real nice movement, and you'll hear again in like the next verse. There's the like little glitchy electronic thing as well. Like I think that really it added real nice movement to this.
He did cool stuff with like the vocal textures as well, because I definitely like there were no ideas for harmonies or anything really for the entire album.
Yeah,
but
yeah,
with this, he added in part of the speech for the last of
Yeah, that
thousands,
was-
and
that
then
was
there
pretty
was under the bridge part there was me screaming my head off with like a load of distortion on it,
Yeah.
and then Jack doing a big dirty.
Yeah.
I think as well, like just
Big
this
spill.
riff, like just the way it fucking punches in, like it's so like it's snarl. It's like a
Slick, yeah.
fucking dog trying to get at you and rip your balls off. Like,
But it's not a typical heavy
fucking
guitar
horrible.
sound as well. It's a very like it's
but
almost like
it's just nasty.
It's got
like,
kind of
it's-
like a Linkin Park feel.
Yeah.
No,
To me, anyway. when
nu
I was
metal.
Kinda like coming up with it. I was
yeah,
like,
but kind of less
Yeah.
kind of cheesy.
yeah,
yeah.
yeah.
A big part of that is obviously context as well. But yeah, it's you're right in saying that this whole song, like even we were saying that the typical tropes of an LNT song is like the bass riff with the stack and me hitting the stack really hard. Like 2 sections of this song is completely based on that, and it developing as well. So we have the pre-chorus in the first part, and then in the second part we've doubled the length and changed things and added things and stuff like that. So the whole idea about LNT is like when you revisit a section, there needs to be a reason
A
why you're doing
development,
it.
like, yeah.
You can't just play the same
Which
thing.
is kind of, I
again.
think that's a pillar of like effective songwriting without fucking blowing smoke up our own arses. Like,
we do that enough.
it's, you know, like I think harmonically, obviously this section as well. This section in particular is pretty interesting, just the way it moves up.
Yeah, the melody line.
But when you actually break down all the layers, and then especially here, the development of this section where Dave is going,
That's probably
Like,
This is actually the first time we played this live. like the riff. Noel plays the riff here, and that's what he does at the start, and then
even
it just drops
the
out.
stack doubling up
And
here.
the amount of people who like they were like, yeah, and then it just drops out, and they're all just completely like thrown by it.
Yeah.
I remember
That was
being in the
fun.
studio, and this was the first track we recorded, and when that happened, and actually hearing that back, I never realized what kind of
Like, just-
feel it gave, and I was just
Yeah.
like, we are in the right place with the right person right now.
Just drops to absolute zero at piano, which is also another
Yeah.
trope of LNT, the real spacey,
Yeah.
luscious
Yeah.
piano sound.
And that speech sample there, that's foreshadowing. I think we don't do much of it because we didn't go into this with a concept,
Yeah.
but we were kind of retroactive. A lot of these songs are related,
Yeah.
so that's kind of like you're
Yeah,
foreshadowing.
a few sort of common threads that you sort of,
So
or
that-
motifs that you knit throughout.
Yeah, that's foreshadowing track 9, the Last of Thousands.
Yeah.
Kind of, it's a cool little idea. And even the chord progression itself is referencing the Pink Floyd section, as we call it.
Yeah.
in the
I
Last
also
of
love
Thousands.
that the swells on this section are from the demo, from the scratch tracks.
Yeah.
Are they? Yeah.
Yeah, they were. It was a guitar straight in to an interface, and
Oh,
we ended
yeah.
up. Dave just really liked the character of them, and just I don't know. It's weird. You could go and you could slave over for ages and probably not recreate anything better, but it's just funny that it's like takes from just your old gaff in Stony Batter made it onto this. Like,
Yeah, it was weird because we heard this like a good few months before we got the rest of everything mixed and mastered. I remember it's kind of weird, but I felt kind of intimidated listening back. I was like, oh shit, like now we kind of have to live up to this because I never
the rest of it,
I never imagined we'd work with someone who'd make us sound like that. You know, because like we're so used to just using like whatever
home
demos.
recording kind of demos and stuff.
Exactly, and that they only sound so good, and even that it kind of sounds like computer game music.
Yeah, that's what I was gonna. It's
Yeah.
very like, it's very digital sounding.
Yeah, and I was
Yeah.
like, oh crap, like I can't believe someone's made us sound like this.
Yeah.
You know, and I was like, oh, now we have to.
capture the essence of how it sounds in a practice room,
Yeah.
and
Mm.
shone a light on it almost like.
It was just the kind of the nerves of having to walk after that.
Yeah.
It's like, how the hell do we do that? But it was fine.
This
All worked
is the oldest song on the album.
I
It
love
is, yeah.
this song.
This
used to be 2 different songs,
Yeah.
and then we just
Shoved it
like
together.
because the end of one song was terrible and the beginning of the other one was awful, so we just chopped it in half. Just went,
When we
is-
first kind of dipped our toes into
yeah,
something
But
a bit
this was written
different.
A bit
before
darker.
When I was blind. Remember that?
Yeah.
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 Track
This
no
was,
one's heard.
Yeah.
yeah. this
Yeah,
was when-
recordings that
anyway.
we fucking scratched.
Yeah.
But
Yeah.
this goes back all the way to Late Night Troubles. You know,
Yeah.
and it goes
We also
back.
probably should give a nod. Sorry to cut across you. We should give a nod to Steve
They love
For
it.
putting up with
for
us for the
yeah,
first
because I think Steve was pretty instrumental in
formation.
the format. And us figuring out as well then who we wanted to be and what we wanted to do.
He was
What we
integral
wanted.
in the early kind of ages of the band. I mean, like Kev kind of growing up with him and stuff, and he's been working with music with him for a long time, and then obviously bringing him in with us, and then spending days and nights and hours in studios and stuff with him, and just trying different things, and
Yeah.
but always having like a really really good enjoyable experience, because he was just a pleasure to work with, and
Yeah.
kind of brought out a really good kind of like
I don't know. We
a
also
Beautiful human being.
I think we also learned a lot from it as well, in that the approach that we took to recording the album with Dave versus how we went about recording
individual
parts.
songs.
Like we used to go about like we'd take sections individually with Steve.
whereas we
and
did-
we'd just get into the nitty gritty of being like, you know, dialing in effects and dialing in tones and stuff. And we'd probably I think you'll always find the first take of most shit is generally the best. Because then after that you start thinking too much and you slip up.
But naturally, with the first take, you instantly think, "Oh, I
yeah,
could
it's,
definitely
it's a
do
real.
that better.
It's just your more.
Could definitely do that better." But it might
Yeah,
be
I
the
don't know,
best
but
thing.
at the same time, there definitely is that aspect
Yeah.
where you're like, oh shit, yeah, I could definitely give you this bit better, and you'll always just slave over it and
Yeah.
nitpick stuff. But it's also the first one is always the most honest kind of
Yeah.
reaction, I think. But then when it came to recording with Dave, like the drum recording process was weird in that it was like shells and cymbals separately.
Yeah.
But guitars as well was just like a full top to bottom live take of
Yeah,
the
with-
guitars
with
with,
all
the
your
effects
pedal
changes
changes
and
and
all
stuff,
that
yeah.
shit in between. And then if we had to overdub anything afterwards, or if we had any kind of recording ideas, we did that afterwards. But I think that contributed to the feel and why it captured
Yeah.
how we felt about it all a little bit more accurately, I think.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, that's a really good point, and it brings it on to again working with Dave, and the he obviously approached me. We brought him to a rehearsal room and played a few songs for him, and it was that night that he suggested we record the drums with cymbals and shells separately, and obviously I was very kind of apprehensive about that.
It's an unnatural way to do things.
It's an incredibly unnatural way to do it, but at the same time, I just couldn't argue with the results. With the kind of music that we're playing, you want the most control over the sound of everything at all times. And if it was a case where, like, if he wants to turn up a stack but it's too close to the floor tom, and every single time he turns up the stack the floor tom goes crazy, then, like, to avoid that and to have complete control over how the drums sound in general, I was like, yeah, whatever, I'll do it.
Just before this song ends, this is one of definitely like a pivotal song in terms of the LNT writing style, because there was like One by One that came before it, this, and then like even Revolving Door all exist in the same sort of space, if you know what I mean. Just thematically.
I don't know. I always wrestled with this song because I remember when we were writing it, I think I'd like missed a train on the way to rehearsals and had a real shit day, and I was like having one of those I'm the fucking worst guitar player of all time, trying to write a part. And I was like, fuck this, I hate this part. I'm just playing the same thing, but it actually ends up being more effective.
Also, big shout out to Dave Prendergast for this.
This was taking the weirdness to another level.
It was crazy. It was just myself and you, Kev, in the studio that day.
I just want a B flat sub. Yeah, cool. Like this.
Yeah, he literally like what we did with Approaching Dave and the album is that we essentially recorded the entire album ourselves demo wise and gave it to him, and then as we recorded things, we like say took the program drums out of it and put my real drums in and just kind of built it from the ground up. But with this track, it was like Kev had this fairly basic things with like, again with the sub and with like clicks and drops and stuff like that, and it's just his vocal. And I remember sitting across from Kev where Dave took the session, took his vocals out, and just threw all of it through all of his outboard gear. And Kev and I just sitting there looking at each other, going, "Is this a bit much? Is it going a bit too far?" And then he kind of lowered the volume of it, threw Kev's vocals back in, threw the weird kind of vocoder thing, and went, "That's it."
Yeah,
like that's exactly what that should sound like.
I didn't know this was a thing. This song.
You know,
I didn't know about it.
I wasn't. Well, I just didn't know. I wasn't there.
I have a habit of doing that. I did
Kev just kept reassuring us that he had a song and he wasn't showing us it, but it was gonna be in the middle of the album.
Yeah, it was gonna be. It's gonna be the low point of the album.
But man, like I remember just thinking back to the launch show as well. Like I think this whole entire project was very much like we're gonna please ourselves.
Yeah.
It wasn't designed to fit into any mold. We knew we weren't going to get radio play with it, but and even then, like when it came to constructing the show, it was let's pull no punches and spare no expense.
Make it a spectacle
to make it so that it sounds and it looks how we want it to, and we present it the way we want it.
Yeah.
But I just remember getting the click, like the countdown in my ears for this. And obviously we just had the full track play for the show with like a weird kind of backdrop and stuff. But I just remember the sub just entering the room, and I was just like, holy fuck. Yeah, this is insane.
It's the perfect kind of like divider of the album. This kind of signifies the second half of it, and like even the track that goes into after it is very unlike the first few tracks.
Yeah.
Again, like another one of Kev's tracks where it's very kind of creepy and eerie and kind of just crawls along.
You know, I do what I do when I do what I do.
Yeah, you do.
Zappity.
But it's a track. It's a kind of track that I would like. I always love to have on an album. Just the track where people go, "What the fuck?"
Yeah.
Like, just what the hell is this? This isn't like.
That was. I feel like that was the time when I really like at the show was when I really identified it with it as this is the weird. This is the fucking strange fucking song on this album.
Yeah, that's the one.
Yeah.
Thurible is also a fairly older song as far as I remember.
Not really.
It's one of the it's the first phase of the album.
Yeah.
Writing process.
Yeah, definitely. Yeah.
Well, I remember we were in Cotton Lab, Steve's place. I don't know if you're sure if you remember this.
Yeah, I played the very first demo.
You had like a demo on SoundCloud, and
it was just the first
but even
verse,
back then,
chorus,
like,
and then just a load of vocoders at the end.
It sounded cool. But even back then, I was like, that's a bit of a stretch. Because that's how new we were to maybe the idea of changing our sound.
Yeah.
And I was like, what? Like, we're electronic drums. What,
and I think that brought on
the
sort of the click and track era, and
Yeah.
us, thinking about the album that we wanted to create and then figuring out how to replicate it.
Yeah.
This is also a song that when we play it live, it's just way nastier.
You just
every
you
single
just
time.
dig in so much more
Yeah.
because there's the creepiness element, but there's also the very electronic element that it's very kind of like down to the click and just lots of little samples. But when the instrumental kind of parts kick in, you really hit hard.
I've heard someone describe this as our sexy song.
Yeah, I've heard that as well.
Sexy
Yeah.
song?
This is
Yeah.
our sexy song.
Who said that?
People say it.
People
talk
people
about it.
talk.
One person
People-
has said it to multiple
Are
people.
are they dogging to this? Like, that's cool.
I hope so.
That's
be.
deadly.
I hope so. Yeah, that'd be
It's
class.
real cool if people
That'd be
are,
so
you
creepy.
know-
People getting pregnant to my
Yeah,
voice.
I mean,
This synth,
it's pretty dark. I mean, but
what I originally had on the demo for this was something kind of similar. That since then though, it's a sound I have yet to replicate because it sounds really cool.
He put it through his outboard.
The
perfect
King
sound.
Korg thing,
Oh,
he
yeah,
found
yeah.
cool sound on that.
A big part of this song is the minimalist kind of aspects of the instruments. Every single instrument is barely playing. Like even in
It's-
this next section,
is-
you are literally just going between intervals
yeah,
of 2 notes.
I think it shows. Yeah, it's there's this cool range to it as well, in that we can be delicate and melodic when we
want it.
need to be like here.
Yeah, I really like that part.
It's really funny when you mess that up live though.
Yeah.
Oh man, I always
You're on your own. You're the only
man,
one
it's
playing there.
that's
It's
squeaky
that-
bum
that and
time.
the-
Like I
that
don't
and
give a
the
shit.
starter
Like
from water.
most of the time, I can just make loads of noise and smack riffs around.
Yeah.
There's also a
Um,
big delay on it, so it keeps going.
Yeah, the
It's
repeat,
right in your
the
face.
reverse delay is just reminds you every time you fuck up.
Yeah.
I also think this verse, the second half, just coming in now, the way everything knits together is just fucking
Yeah.
so satisfying.
It just like kind of
like, between the bass line,
builds and
the guitar part there, it's just like they all knit
All those
perfectly.
different rhythms just bouncing
Yeah.
around
Yeah.
each other
It's
perfectly.
I love it. Like
and especially when it kicks in here again, it's so much more violent live, and it's gotten more and more
Violent.
aggressive as time goes on.
that's such
Violent.
a nasty word. Huh?
Like we just like I again, this turned from like a fairly controlled song for me personally live to this is probably the time that I hit one of the hardest.
Yeah. I also love that there's like a real squealy. It's like the opposite of a soul drop. That
It's
that's
this
Dave. I remember.
huge kinda-
Yeah, I remember when Dave brought that into the rehearsal for the first time. He just had like a little audio thing. He just, I just want to add it in. I just want to add it in.
And
But
it was like
it's just,
holy fuck.
it's just a load of string noises, loads of strings that I just had pitch up really
Yeah.
quickly.
Yeah.
And then I duplicated them about 7 times and offset them, and then put them through a big delay, and just kind of goes.
You were so excited about it. You were like, can I just add this in? And it was like this little like squeal.
What's the sample again? It's a James
It's
Joyce.
a James Joyce night piece.
It's weird and it's scary. Like
This is also a really good time to point out that Noel
We don't
tracked
need
the
to
album.
talk about this.
Noel tracked the album incredibly quickly. Like it took me a good few days to track
Was
the
it
entire
f-
thing.
5.5?
It
5
took
hours.
it took no for about 5 hours to track the whole thing, but it took him about 2 hours to track this one part.
Well,
yeah.
no, we gave up pretty quick.
Can you explain why it took you so long?
Because it's all chordal bass, and then I was asked to go back into the room and just play the high notes. But
Which you
all
would
I
assume would be easier.
which you'd assume would be fine, but when you just practice the chords and shapes constantly, and that's just ingrained
it
in
just
you,
throws.
then when you're asked to
well,
take
yeah.
2 fingers out of that, and
Oh.
Yeah.
I didn't
It's the
know
worst.
my own line, and the lads are just laughing at me for
It was so
ages.
because you were burning through the rest
Yeah,
of it.
and I was
this
so
just stumped
panicked.
you.
An interesting factoid is that this, besides chalk lines, is one of the very few sections we actually wrote together in the room. Most of the album is done in a very weird and specific process, the writing process. That was one of the few parts in the entire.
Yeah,
run
I
through that
remember,
section
like, especially
together.
between the three of you. Because I don't play anything, and Jack only comes in halfway through.
Oh,
You're kind
yeah,
of
yeah.
like because you didn't want to play the same chord progression, and you were all playing different chords. So, but it wasn't even just inversions of the same chord. It was like just
Yeah,
like random chords. and it
one of the
just
few
works.
moments we actually wrote as a band. We don't
As a jam
we don't
kinda?
operate that way. We're not good that way. But it was one of the few
It
moments.
worked out.
This is one of the younger tracks. This
It was the
this
second
was
last thing to be
finished.
written.
Yeah.
Yeah.
This is our in my like I feel a real like Deftones vibe here.
Yeah.
Oh yeah, it's a bit like Beauty School.
Yeah, but I love
Yeah.
the juxtaposition of it starts with the kind of the filter drums and like your
Again,
really pretty kind of
Tying in
chords.
with the water themes where it sounds like it's something just floating back up to the surface.
but it's
wasn't-
really happy.
I
almost,
was
and
so
then it
sad
goes-
when I realized that the part that I was playing was already on the track because I had my shin verb on and it was like real like sounded like
This is-
ships creaking in the
This
night.
is a bitch of a song.
Yeah,
For me,
yeah,
I find it
absolutely.
anyway. It's one of those things where I just find like I really have to concentrate. This kind of little back and forth kind of thing. Like, how many times did I fuck that up in rehearsals
that
and
was
stuff
amazing,
and
yeah.
Well, you
start
did
punching
put that up.
walls and stuff?
This is a good example of kind of drum wise for me. It's like I didn't want to just approach it with just a normal kind of just a groove. I really like incorporating things like tom hits and stuff in grooves,
Yeah,
just to
cool.
get and it like make like a phrase that's longer than just a bar, and you add this kind of sense of movement to it and like progression and all that kind of stuff. It happens in a few more songs, like say the
Drums,
next song
drums,
after this and
drums.
stuff. But drums.
It's become my favorite track. This has over time. I always thought, Kev, this vocal bit here is kind of Chris Martin. There's something Chris Martin about it.
Yeah, you know, I love that little turtle. You know. Yeah, that really doesn't translate to live at all because it just loses all of the arse, just falls out of it when they go into falsetto. But,
Yeah.
Yeah,
but
but
the
it
album-
works
it
really
worked
well
just with the
album-wise.
image,
Yeah.
this song vocally for me is an absolute shit show.
Here's the
Just
fucking,
it
welcome
goes
to the
it goes
Noel
from
Perry
like
show.
Yeah.
it goes to like from a standard normal falsetto and then to like really like just at the very top of my range for the rest of the song. It's just like
I
good
love
though,
it.
I love
I love well, like it's harmonically, it's not all that complicated.
No,
It's just it's
no,
you know two
yeah.
chord kind of vamps and
A
stuff.
little bit of modulation,
Um,
tiny bit.
That's it. But it's and those, I think those are the really cool opportunities to get creative as well, because it's like, right, how do I make a simple vamp more interesting?
I love the complete like change in from like real spacey and luscious to just like a
Bit of movement here.
I always feel live when this moment kicks in, there is a bit of an energy gear shift in the five of us.
Yeah, yeah.
Where I kind of feel like, we all kind of really get into it
Yeah.
a little bit.
especially because it comes back into the chorus here, and
But it's-
well, for me, and because it's in like full voice,
Yeah.
there's a lot more kind of going on, even though it
Yeah.
goes back to that kind of like laid back,
Yeah.
watery.
There is a lot more intensity.
Yeah,
to
I
it.
think it's like it's the first time it reminds us of what's to come.
Yeah.
And I think it's because we know, like, we're assuming that no one else watching knows what the fuck they're in for.
Yeah.
Yeah,
And it's like we kind of know. It's like, all right, we better step it up now because Noel is about to call the
Rip
structural
the face
integrity of
off
the building
people.
into fucking
Yeah.
question.
Yeah, with our
With this
usual
shit.
trope of the stack and,
Yeah.
and Noel's dirty bass riff. But even this weird kind of sonar thing of
That's
like,
a load of submarine samples that I
Yeah.
just kind of merged together.
Robbed
you
off
know.
the internet.
Yeah.
this,
Freesound.org.
this part is really hard to play live for the first few times because you naturally want to speed up, but you just have to sit in it.
And what do we hear? Bass, stack,
Yeah,
And weird.
and weird
weird
sounds.
kind of like sounds and stuff like that. Yeah,
I had a vocal part to go over this,
Yeah.
and then I heard Noel play on it, and I was just
let
like,
him-
no, just let him have it. That's Noel's space.
This
That's where
was
he lives.
The original demo for this. It stopped at the end of that chorus. From this point on is we wrote this as a group.
yeah,
I know we kind of came up with
And
the
there's
idea of a
Jack
bass line.
screaming.
yeah. You scream my head off, and then Dave Prendergast adding another like layer, that little kind
the
of
disco part,
thing,
which is the I beat the 2017 video.
yeah, amazing.
Yeah, that's a gem that's out there on the internet.
What's funny, I'm not sure if anyone remembers, but we very briefly talked about releasing this instead of in circles.
Yeah. Yeah, I
With the
remember
video, and in my head, the video was pretty much exactly the same.
Yeah, no, because we were kind of in between. We had the idea for the video, and then it was just kind of like what song we put it over, and it almost worked better over in circles.
Yeah.
Just
I think it does. Yeah.
Yeah, it does.
Conceptually, it makes more. There's more ties in.
What an epic section though. Holy shit.
Yeah, it's huge. It's huge. It's really
That's good.
melodic and really big. And
But
I,
on
I
stage-
remember before I started playing that guitar part for it, I just like keeled over into the microphone, just going.
Oh yeah, yeah.
No, man, even like going back as far as the bass riff, like the last show we played, like we were hurting people with how loud and aggressive it was.
Yeah.
It
I
was-
told
And
my,
like
I told my
I
family
didn't
to bring
ears in,
earplugs
and it's like you have to just pop them out and hear it as it sounds. Do you know what I mean? You want to hear it how it is in the room, irrespective of how much damage you're doing to yourself, because it's just like there's a certain feeling that it creates that you're like, man, I don't want this to be filtered through anything. I actually just want to hear this for
Yeah.
what it is.
Yeah.
I don't care. I'll deal with the consequences.
Yeah, it's tough live though when you're right beside Jack's crash.
Oh.
and
Oh,
your
yeah.
ears just getting kind of
yeah,
full.
yeah.
I don't know.
There's times in the gig where I can't. Even if I promise to, I can't hold back because it's huge and you can't help but hit as hard as you possibly can.
I think, yeah, again, I know we keep kind of touching on you know, how we had to figure out how to replicate all this stuff. I think it brought us all up a level
Yeah.
as players. It brought the best out of us in that it was like we can't afford to be sloppy or like everything is rigid and not rigid, but everything is on a click.
Yeah.
And it's like you either and it highlights some shortcomings maybe in concentration and stuff where you're like, oh shit, I thought I was right on this, but I don't know. It was it's interesting having all of us on ears where it's just all done to a rigid count. I think it brought out another level in all of us. Like
This is the second oldest track.
Second oldest.
This
track,
is the
yeah.
track that, in my head, bridges the gap. It's the final thing that bridges the gap between Late Night Triples and LNT. Because
It was definitely like lyrically, it was like in between, like what the real like folky indie folk kind of stuff that I was writing and just nasty. I think that was the first time I played like a minor 9, and I was just like, all of the chords are minor 9s now.
It's one of my favorite songs to play. I know
Yeah.
we don't play it very often, but
Yeah.
especially with his bass line, it just in that verse, it has a really
Slinky.
nice pace to it. And then the variations in between the verse, like those kind of things of just kind of cutting out and going right back in again. It's a really like it has a really cool movement, I think.
It's also it's a rock song.
Yeah.
Really, when you listen to it, it's like it's really straightforward.
Especially
Like,
the second half, it's straight.
Yeah,
just
yeah.
kinda-
do you remember the previous iteration we had with the weird
God.
Yeah,
The
well,
unison-
weird riff, the unison riff?
Yeah, when we were kind of like we had played Neptune and then we came back to this and we were like, we should just put riffs in everything.
all
And
of
then,
it. But
yeah.
that sounded
Just
shit.
make
That sounded
noise.
shit, man.
Yeah, it sounds good. It still plays that riff,
yeah,
but it's
oh,
under.
man, but with
a
every,
bridge,
I
yeah.
think it was just figuring out what everything else was meant to do
Yeah.
around
Yeah,
that,
yeah,
rather than
exactly.
doubling
Sounded
it.
very video gamey.
Oh
Yeah,
man, absolutely.
It was great.
we did it
I
live a
loved
few
it.
times.
We did,
I-
yeah. We played the actual like the mad long riff and stuff live. We played it in the Button Factory,
Yeah.
and we
Mellow
were all just like, yeah.
We thought it was the best thing in the world.
Yeah,
at the
I just
time,
looked
bro.
out to the crowd, and everyone was like, "What the hell is going on?"
It's all angular and like
yeah,
tritone.
it took
Yeah.
such a
Didn't-
weird
doesn't work.
turn. I love
And
it.
we replaced it with just make lots of noise.
This section
Yeah.
here. Yeah, just fucking make some feedback and
Yeah.
some scratchy sounds and
Yeah. Beat the shit out of your guitar, essentially.
Yeah, it's
yeah,
mad.
Yeah,
the
this is
weird
also,
reverse
like,
delay,
Yeah,
fucking
they're
sweep thing.
pulling it up.
I think every single song we have has just gotten way dirtier and larger in general when we play it live.
But it's interesting when you like think of music like this, where it is just like make noise and hit your guitar and all that kind of stuff. But it is fairly like to the grid. Like you'd
Yeah,
imagine
yeah.
with that kind of stuff, it's just free foam kind of thing.
Is that it? It's the cacophony in
Free froze.
Free
a
throw,
day in the
free
life.
for all.
It's, yeah, like I think it's just it's sharp and it's tight because it's on the click, but you've got your windows where it's like take out a bit of aggression
Yeah.
here and get weird.
Yeah,
Do you know what I mean? It's you've got 8 bars to just
to just
make
do
some
whatever you want.
make
Yeah.
something weird happen.
It's funny listening to all you talk about tracking when I didn't do any tracking.
You just
Yeah,
had all
well,
your
you did.
parts
Well, you
done.
did.
Yeah, it's funny
Just
because
in your
Do it
gaff.
on in your own.
it's funny
yeah.
like no record the album really quickly, but I recorded it 3 months in advance because all my parts besides Chalk Lines actually that's the only thing I played again.
You played piano.
because we wanted to be less.
You played actual piano and something though, didn't you?
No, everything was just the demo and the MIDI just resampled.
There is a piano sample in Reach, and that was just you walking along and put your hand on the piano, and Dave was happy.
There you go.
Oh, there we go. I didn't know
There you
that.
go.
So, yeah, you're on Reach, man.
I didn't know that. Oh, cool. Yeah, like this is just a rock section, but I think it works. It's got.
It's really cool.
I
It's
actually,
not-
I really like the thing that you're doing in this. Sam, sorry, pointing.
4
The
lines
real-
over there.
The real high.
Yeah,
It works. It works.
that's cool.
So we're getting into the last kind of parts of the album. These last
This
two tracks.
this is my favorite song on the.
These last two tracks
entire
are
planet.
technically together. Like they should kind of lead in together a bit.
Do you want to talk about this a little bit, Jack?
So this track is a really big deal for me. A few years ago, my grandmother got really ill and lost her and all that kind of stuff, and I was really close to her growing up and all that kind of shit. So it was to lose her, and it just kind of completely changed my world, and I went through a lot of shit for that. And there was one night where I was feeling particularly bad and couldn't sleep and all that kind of stuff. So I was like, okay, I'll try write something to like just to see if I could like maybe visualize something or make it in any way cathartic or just to kind of make some sense of it. So I wrote this whatever, like I don't know what you would call it,
Eulogy?
or whatever. Like it wasn't even a eulogy. It was just like a
short.
yeah of
A
just
prose.
Prose, yeah.
So what I did was
Words.
I wrote this thing and instantly sent it to Kev, and it was like, look, this is just something that I have. You can either use it as lyrics, you don't have to use it at all. It was just here is something, and for like, it meant the whole world to me to not only like that the guys were happy enough with it to use it on the album, but to also use one of the lines in it to name the album, like, and that made it like this album all the more important to me, because not only is it like the most proud I've ever been of anything I've ever done, but it's this huge kind of tribute to a woman that was incredibly important to me.
Yeah, and I thought I finished the process because this was the last thing that was written.
Yeah, we
Like-
never played this together before we recorded it.
No, because it was done in my bedroom.
Yeah.
And I remember I had most of it kind of written. Obviously, like that it starts off very different than how it
Old
ends.
action in your bedroom.
It's
But, like-
also it's not like a full song. I think
It's
it's
a
definitely
structural
just like
device.
it's a callback to everything that's been going on.
Yeah,
Yeah.
it's your finality, it's your
Yeah.
like resolve kind of thing.
Yeah,
As you-
I definitely think I remember I was trying to write with the thing that you had written. I was trying to use that as lyrics, and I was just like,
No.
I kind of like I can't just take some lines from it. So when we decided to put it into the album, like this was the
I think
perfect song to it.
Dave
for it to be
came
in.
up with the idea when we were actually writing this song
Yeah.
that this would be the summing up of everything that's come before,
Yeah, absolutely.
and approach it as if it's like the final scene of the film.
And I remember the first time hearing, because obviously the way we worked was that the instrumentation was so, we found it so hard and it was complex that when we'd rehearse, obviously we'd figure all that stuff out. That the first time I heard a lot of the vocal ideas was when we were getting mixes back. I was like,
Yeah.
oh shit, like, and I just remember hearing this
Oh,
section,
blew me
and
away.
it was like, I don't know, it just completely caught me off guard.
Like, it's my favorite vocal performance on the
Yeah.
album. Like every time, it's just shivered. Like,
It's also
just-
cool. Again, closing lyrics are "Let Me Out." It's really good opening lyrics. Really, really good closing lyrics. You know,
Thanks, Dave.
really, really good idea.
And then we just end the album with just nonsense.
This is actually the
Complete
first
nonsense.
thing we wrote intentionally for the album as
This
well.
this is a huge track because it was before you were going off to the US
We
for a while.
we
it was
did
the day after, or not the day after.
We finished it. We played it top to bottom
then I was
just
gone.
before you went.
Yeah,
But it was the first time where we actually went like heavy. It was
Yeah.
the first, like to that point I was still in the mindset of, oh, we'll never actually be that kind of heavy. And when we played it all together in the room, and when it all clicked, we all just kind of couldn't believe it. We were like,
What's-
holy shit.
Yeah.
Because like this was a track I had already written for myself like a year previous before this would have been appropriate.
yeah,
And
yeah,
so I said, I was going through my laptop, like, oh, I have this thing. Obviously, it was in a different version, and all of a sudden, it was up to date. It made sense for us
Yeah.
to play that now.
I remember when it came
Together.
together like
Oh.
at that exact perfect moment where we actually just played it the
I
full
think
way
it was
through.
because,
just the
man,
best.
we'd all be looking around the room.
It was an
and
absolute roast.
It was like this whole thing could fall apart at any given moment, and it was just like this chaotic kind of looking around, like, oh fuck, like we're
Yeah.
still
We're
in
still
it,
in
like,
it,
do you know what I
yeah.
mean? We haven't fucked up yet.
It used to be the song we were terrified of playing
Yeah.
because it was so difficult. And then it just happened that every single other song on the album
It's harder.
it's harder.
Revolving
than
Door
this.
is way harder.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
Sam, you have two really big
you
contributions to
keep
this
that
song
up.
because
I'll do
you at the beginning that big chord progression that just finished there. It used to sound a lot different from
Yeah.
my demo. It was very much like it was changing keys because it was never an LNT song. It was a imaginary video game
Yeah.
song. So you kind of formulate this, the proper harmonic movement there, and at the end,
Thank you, sir.
you kind of like, if it wasn't,
I love the way the feedback went there.
The
That was
feedback, yeah,
pure
yeah.
chance as well. That it.
I remember you
It was
turning
intimate.
around
Be like,
when you were recording, like, going,
Sorry, go ahead, Dave. Continue.
yeah, I'll continue.
Continue
washing
propping up my
praise on
ego.
you.
Yeah.
Yeah, and then it was the end riff as well. You kind of restructured that and.
Oh,
really
when
looked
we
at the
when
meters and all that
got
kind
we
of
got
stuff.
kind of matty and weird.
Yeah.
Yeah, where we throw in a bar of 7 for the crack.
yeah.
And it's
Wonderful.
it's weirder again now live. Like
We
there's a
change it,
weird kind
yeah.
of staggered, just for the fun of it.
And
Yeah.
for the final time on the album, the main trope of dirty bass riff with Stack.
Yeah.
come up. And that, like, this is the point in the live show where
I lose my mind every time.
Oh, you just-
It's just
This took me a good while to be able to play.
yeah.
There's
because the
the
whole
stack.
tuning down to C
Yeah.
sharp and
Yeah.
stuff and having just a weird form with your fingers, the way they move.
especially like the last time we played it with your new pedal setup, it was just like
It was horrible.
I was standing. I
fucking
took
horrible,
took
it's
my
nasty.
earplugs out and I was just like, right, well I'm just gonna be deaf for the next
But it's
6
worth it.
hours.
It's completely worth
Yeah.
it.
Yeah.
What a like it's
This is like our harmony guitar part where we go back to back.
we're fucking dueling guitars
fucking
because that's what you
Tin
do.
Lizzy.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's amazing.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah,
it's
the
cool.
Tin Lizzy moment, yeah.
No, it just goes into utter chaos.
But what a mental journey throughout that whole song where you've got this like
Yeah.
symphonic kind of, it's almost orchestral with all the swells, and then it ends up here. So,
This mental
Yeah.
riff.
Yeah, so again, like that's where the old demo finished,
Yeah.
and then we said, okay, we need to keep it going, so we decided to turn it into a unison,
The
and
fun-
then it became Ramstein. You know?
Yeah, the crazy thing is, like, we're still kind of changing and developing the parts ever so slightly. Like,
This
there's
is just absolutely
Yeah.
unnecessary.
as like we play them live and as time goes on and stuff like that, we change them and alter parts, and it's still developing. And that's the kind of way I always wanted it to be, where it's like it's still the core of the song, but there's just tiny little inflections that each of us do that work in one show. So we're like, oh, we'll do it in the next show and all that kind of stuff.
Again, I wanted to open the album with that, and I think you can't really come back from it.
Yeah, you can't really play anything after
No.
that because it's
Yeah.
just people are exhausted by that point. Well, I'm exhausted by that point. So
It
I
does
can't
seem
really-
like that's the end credits, you know, and it's instrumentally and like dynamically, it's even a step above what comes before in the previous 9 tracks. So it's almost like you're opening the door a little bit for what we might do down the road, you know.
which
it's-
is what we
for what
did,
we did
and we
do
just
down
made
the
it
road.
even
Yeah.
weirder. And
yeah. So it was a good spot to put it.
following on from what you said there, Jack, it's really cool because as a whole, the whole album is tight, and it's like there's a certain, you know, like we wanted to challenge ourselves to a large degree, but it's still so expressive in that it's like you can still put different inflections on it each time. I think
Yeah.
that's what you're like, without it being, you want to strike the balance between it being like expressive but not being like too robotic.
Yeah.
Do you know what I mean? Where it's just like we literally all we can do is play the songs exactly how they were meant to be played.
I think
There's
that
still room for us to be ourselves on it. Like,
when we chopped in that bar at 7, I think that definitely kind of like it broke it up to the point where it wasn't just the same riff on a loop,
just
and it was
another
just like
little
it really
development.
like it throws you. It's just
yeah,
great.
So when you were saying it kind of what this kind of opened the door for what it could lead to, when we were, I think it was in the process of mixing the track, the album, we kept working while Dave was mixing and stuff like that, and kept writing and all that kind of stuff, and ended up writing something that we always wished could have been on the album, but it just wasn't ready.
I don't think this would have fit on the album. I don't think it would
Yeah,
have.
it,
It wouldn't
like-
have gone.
We kind of thought, oh, if
Anywhere
only
with
this
it.
was there instead of chalk lines or
Or
something like
whatever,
that.
I
or-
never
Look,
thought
yeah.
that. I
In
love
one
chalk lines.
sense, like talking about it now, I would have been very much of that sort of opinion, probably until now. But when you sit down and we talk about it, like chalk lines is a nod to our previous life in one
Yeah.
sense, and I think it belongs
It
there.
completely
If it fits
Um,
in just in like, especially because it's that kind of. I was going from that because it was such a complete departure. Like the whole album was a complete departure lyrically from what I'd done before.
Yeah.
So I was kind of like basing a lot of my things off like what I was thinking about when I was writing that kind of stuff,
Yeah.
and kind of like trying to use imagery and kind of the same sort of lyrical style to it.
Mm.
But it's definitely like it matches up. If there were just a big fat riff at the end, it'd be the same as every other song on the album.
So the track we're talking about is a track called Revolving Door that we released a while ago, with a video and all that kind of stuff, and it's definitely personally for me it's the most difficult song to play in the entire
100%.
set.
100%.
Yeah.
It's very difficult. It's probably the heaviest we've ever been, but it is also like Skyrise is my favorite track on the album, but I think this is my favorite track overall. Just in terms of how everything is glued together, the fact that the whole thing is technically based around the first 2/8 notes of a 6/8 phrase, like nearly every single section is technically based on those two first hits. how the song flows, how it even sounds right now. We went to Aidan Cunningham to record it, who mastered our album. Because we felt this track being one of the heavier tracks and stuff, and he's renowned for his kind of prowess and that kind of stuff. And he nailed it. He really did nail it. It was he kind of brought it to the level that we wanted it to be on the recording. So
It's large.
oh, it's fat. So as a kind of fat. So as an ending to this kind of thing,
Got a
we
weight
thought
problem.
we'd gonna
Put on that large boy there.
Put on one by one there, will
so,
you?
so we're gonna just kind of talk through the revolving door track as well.
I actually forgot I went back that far. That it was written and kind of finished while the album was being mixed. I had forgotten that. I thought it was like the album was finished. Okay, let's write something new.
No, it was during the mixing stage,
That's cool.
and it's just huge. Throughout
Out the blocks, like.
It's actually, I don't have a lot of work live on this track.
Yeah, you just gave it all to us.
Yeah, you just mime everything there.
I mime
You just
everything,
mime
yeah.
everything.
No, in fairness, some of the shit you've got going on in Circles of Neptune, I'm just like, you're a freak. I don't know how you pull that off.
Just like it's cool actually being able to play this track live and not have to sweat really as much as
Yeah.
Yeah, you can enjoy it a bit more.
But I think
And
it covers everything, where you've got like this kind of down section which still has groove, and you've also got the aggression and the finesse of the riffs and
Exactly,
shit. Like,
yeah.
it's cool.
Yeah, it goes through. It's like taking parts. Like, so say for example, Noel's bass line in this upcoming verse is then played through with all of us later on. It's like taking different parts of each song and kind of throwing them together, which I love doing. I love, like, again, taking parts again, but playing them with another reason to play them.
A motif, if you will.
Exactly.
Yes.
So this
I did English in
like,
school.
this section, we really need to like lock in live, because if it's in any way off, it just doesn't really work. But if it's right on, it has this really, really cool kind of like rolling pace to it.
We played this, was the last song we played at the album launch as well.
Yeah.
And it was
and
like,
I had
no
like
lyrics.
I had
Yeah.
lyrics, but they just didn't make sense at all, and I was just kind of going.
I listened back to that the other day.
It's
and
terrible.
I was like, wow, he
It
didn't
sounds
have,
great
nothing.
though.
He didn't have
nothing.
Nothing.
I had like the syllables sounded great.
Yeah,
But
I was going a full Jonesy and just singing syllables.
Why is it called revolving door? Is it
You called it
You called it
Revolving Door.
Revolving Door.
Oh right.
You wanted to change the name,
Yeah,
and then
you called
I
it
was just
revolving
like,
door, but you didn't want to call it revolving door.
Okay.
Yeah.
Right.
what else are we
I
going
want
to call
change
it?
it.
What do we call it?
What would we call it?
We changed the name
If
now that
anyone
it's up on
has
Spotify.
any recommendations, send them in.
Please email kevpilo.
k.pilo47@gmail.com.
Freak party.
Yeah.
Freak party.
There's me screaming again.
It was funny. I remember playing this for my dad when we got the master, and I was like, "You have to listen to this loud now." I was like, "You have to I was like, "Don't bitch out. Like, you have to listen to this fucking loud." And I'm not messing, man. Like, we were in his home office, and he had like this old set of like computer speakers that we had that had like a sub. And I remember we cranked that, and I was wincing. I was like, "Fuck, Jesus, what the fuck are we have to do in here?" But he described it as sounding like something that would be in like a Mission Impossible movie or something, with Tom Cruise hanging out of it. Tom Cruise hanging onto the wing of a plane or something.
Alright, I just
It
sink
feels
you
like
in
that when you're playing it.
Yeah, here's where the shitstorm.
Oh, this
Comes
is
in.
yeah. If we get past this part live, I know I'm all right.
Yeah.
It's not that bad.
Man,
this whole
shut the
song-
fuck up. It's horrible.
I'm just going. It's all good.
Here's
Especially
where
this
yeah.
part. Yeah.
This whole song in general was a huge creative outlet.
Yeah.
It's great.
Not only is that section hard for me to play because of the offbeat, but for you guys to keep on.
Yeah,
Yeah.
it's hard. It's not easy.
I remember when you did that in the rehearsal space as well, and it was just like, oh, everyone just made that stanky face.
That was your idea, wasn't it?
The offbeat thing.
Yeah.
But it was a bit more complicated. I think we were like going through like, will we go in between them, like 4, 4, 4, 4, or like, but we just
It
ended
was
up
just
cutting
finding the right pattern. Like, I think we decided on the offbeat feel, but it was placing the snares
Yeah.
was the hard part too, so that it made sense.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
And it rounded off, and it finished where it should.
And on the actual German recordings, didn't we manipulated the pattern?
Yeah, you
You're
sampled
okay with me
the
saying
kicks
that?
in, yeah.
And
The
then
strings are amazing here as well.
the strings, and then the dirtiest we've ever been.
Yeah, so this is the bass riff from the verse, now turned into a unison.
No.
It is. No, it's from the post verse.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean,
That's
it almost sounds like there are horns there as well.
It's not a bad idea.
It's very Lord of the Rings esque.
What movie is it now? Is it Tom Cruise?
Fucking Mission
in Lord of
Impossible.
the
Yeah.
Rings.
We
Yeah.
just talked about it.
It's Tom Cruise
Aragorn
it's
hanging
Tom
out of a
Cruise with a
plane.
mask of
You
someone
know
else's
when
face on.
he's going down into Mordor and trying to get the ring, trying to place it in the lava with those wires that he hangs down.
I'm just imagining Tom Cruise and Ving Rhames now in Mount Doom.
Yeah, but not in like Lord of the Rings gear, just in his Mission
In a normal
Impossible.
gear, yeah, his type black t-shirt. Yeah.
The video turned out pretty cool for that as well,
Yeah,
which
that
was
was very
shot in this building.
In this building, in my bedroom.
That is still standing after Kev kicked
Yeah.
the shite out.
Yeah.
I hurt my hand.
But man, like you couldn't write that.
Wait.
Like you.
I did write that.
Well, no, you did write it, but do you know what I mean? Like that, you'd punch the wall and it'd actually start falling apart, and you're like, all right, fuck it, let's just cut our losses and rip the whole thing apart
Also,
for the sake of a really cool video.
big ups to Olga Kosmego and her team that did the
In
video
Circles.
In
for
Circles
In
video.
Circles, as well as the video for Revolving Door. She's great to work with because we generally come to her with really strange concepts
That are impossible to pull off without someone in the room with a head saying, okay, well, this is what we can do.
Yeah,
Exactly, yeah.
yeah. Special
Yeah,
shout
yeah,
to
real
special
nice.
shout out to Alan, who was like our continuity guy. He was just like, that is stupid.
Oh, don't do that. Don't
No,
do
that won't work at all. It just
No, but they
made
did
the
a
video
stellar
special.
job on both videos.
absolutely.
But yeah, that's it. That's all the kind of the music we have released as LNT.
Yeah.
Out there in the
ether.
ecosystem.
There's also a
Ecosystem.
jazz album to come.
Oh yeah, we have the
Yeah.
jazz album. We'll be playing in JJ's next Saturday. No matter
Oh,
when you're
fuck, we used to
listening
do
to
that.
this,
Yeah, yeah.
it will be next Saturday when we're playing in JJ's.
Jesus. It was nice to like this is the first time we thought it'd be really funny and to mark the significance of getting the masters of the album back after 2 years of writing and all that we'd only listen to the masters for the first time together here. We wouldn't listen to them on our own. It was like we wanted everyone to have an honest reaction. And of course, Fat Sarny over here fell asleep on this couch
Right there.
like for probably about 6 tracks, woke up at the start of Neptune, or right when the riff kicked in Neptune. It's like, oh yeah, that's dead.
Great. I'll
So
sign off
That's
on
a
that.
great
nice.
album.
It was nice to be conscious and awake and to chat to you.
Alert and have a bit of
Better
a chat.
music.
about
It's also
this.
one of the few times all 5 of us are in the same room.
Yeah.
'Cause
That
that
happens
doesn't
very
happen.
rarely.
Doesn't happen all that often.
Yeah.
Good.
But yeah,
Sweet.
Thanks for listening to our shite.
yeah. Thank you very much.
If you did. If you didn't, fuck you.
Man, odds. What are the odds? It's probably been about an hour plus now. What are the odds that anyone actually gets this far?
Yeah.
Or that anything was actually recorded.
If you get this
Yeah,
far,
something is
if you
going
get this
on.
far, Sarny will lick your face.
And on that.
Anyway.